this video, we're looking at building the Newman Miniatures model of Agenoria, one of the earliest engines in the National Railway Museum. Or conversely, Stourbridge Lion, its sister engine, which was the first locomotive to operate in the United States of America. The body itself is relatively standard for the Newman Miniatures range. There's space for weight in the boiler, a pre-drilled hole for a coupling between locomotive and tender. It just requires usual painting and finish. You will notice, however, there are two separate funnel attachments. One of these is for scale height. This was, of course, before the formation of the modern loading gauge. The other one, therefore, is to enable going under tunnels and such like. Now, you can just glue one of these in place, or you can fit a piece of wire, a little bit of blue tack down the chimney, and that makes it interchangeable. Turning to the motion pack, you'll see the various elements here. There's the main beam supports, the beams themselves, the rods, and a few crew figures. There's a possibility that the holes might not be distinct when you get the parts. You should nonetheless be able to still make out the dimples of where they are, so they can be drilled out. It should also be said that on the beam, the two outer holes were pivots. The centre one, you're going to be fitting a static pin, so you want the outer holes to be very slightly larger than those in the centre, just to make sure that it's clear for rotating. In terms of assembly, the main body needs some of the holes drilling out slightly to accept the beam supports. This then slots straight in place. Because clearances are extremely tight with the beams, I would recommend doing some light filing of the inside of the beam supports, the angled struts running down, just to give a little bit of extra clearance. Then you can fit a safety valve, a regulator, just using wire and styrene, as you see in the picture. Turning to the beams themselves, this image is largely self-explanatory. The vertical rod pinning to the centre of the beam. So you, of course, need this to be mirror image for each side. I'd also recommend filing the pin head down just to give that extra little bit of clearance. When you're fitting it into place, there's a small wire which goes in as a hinge, which glues to the beam supports. Turning to the piston rod itself, as you can also see in the picture, clearances are tight and the rod needs to be central underneath so you can see the shape required. What I would recommend is if you make the U-shaped section first and check the fit of that against the beam support. Once you know that that's fine, you can slot the beam on and work from the rest. The piston rod is not actually really very visible. It might not be necessary, but I built it with two, I should say, included, so that is a case of experimentation on your part if you would rather not include it. Ultimately, the rods between the wheels are on the outside of the beam connection rods. There's a slightly thicker end to one which goes to the forward wheels just to make sure that everything lines up correctly. Once this is all done, that is effectively it. It's just a case of running in to check any tight spots. Again, likely to be in the case of the piston rods if you have an issue at all. And with that, the model is complete. A pioneering locomotive and an all too uncommon example in miniature railways of a working beam locomotive. I hope this has been of interest, and thank you for watching.